Some say the market knows the truth of a man before his feet reach it. Others say truth waits by the ledger. There was once a merchant who prized one riddle above all: how to hold wealth without being held by it. He would soon test that riddle, and a choice would be born from a single coin. He set 3 jars upon his counter, each plain and without ornament, and named them with careful breath: save, spend, give. If I split each gain between them, he thought aloud, I can feed today, plant for tomorrow, and honor the needs beyond my door. The jars gleamed like promises, and the market hummed as he placed the first coin inside save. He divided his earnings as if following an old prayer. A portion set aside, a portion spent, a portion offered. Neighbors whispered that he was prudent, others that he was cold, but the merchant felt only the quiet steadiness of a rule kept every market day. The jars filled slowly, and a new calm settled over his travels. Some say envy is a wind that finds cracks in every rule, and the merchant began to hear it in the market's laughter and longing. A rival flaunted riches and a buyer asked for credit, and the jars felt suddenly thin in the face of appetite and need. The first real test had arrived like a gray cloud, and he tightened his hand on the ledger. One season the roads were kind, and caravans brought coin like a sudden harvest, filling the merchant's jars faster than any year before. The spend jar swelled with means to taste fine meals and new fabrics. The save jar brimmed with promise, and the give jar quietly filled as well. The village rejoiced, but joy brought new eyes and louder wants. A stranger with silver-threaded sandals offered the merchant a rare opportunity, a venture that promised quick returns and a chance to double every coin placed into it. The merchant's spend jar whispered of comfort, and the save jar of a future eased. Even give trembled, tempted to loosen its lips for a greater gift later. He stood between the jars, counting the weight of desire and the heft of a promise. Greed is a quiet grammar that rewrites rules into exceptions, and that night the merchant whispered to himself that one deviation would harm no one. He sank a larger share into the venture, a choice made with the soft logic of a man who believes tomorrow will repay any indulgence today. In the morning the jars looked the same, but a single decision had already begun to bend the scale. The venture promised swift returns and told stories of men who climbed overnight, yet the merchant could not quiet the unease that rose like smoke from a hidden fire. He visited the jars and felt dishonest weight where steadiness had been, and a neighbor's small child asked for bread that day with selling eyes. The jar's balance was off, and the market's shadows grew longer. It is told that ledgers remember the tone of a keeper's soul, and his numbers began to sing a discordant note as the venture fell slow and false. The merchant counted losses where gains had once been promised, and the jars felt suddenly lighter, as if some of the coins had grown wings. He knew then that the rule had been tested not by want, but by the choice to break a promise. A storm comes to every life in the form of loss, and for the merchant it arrived as a string of bad harvests, a caravan that failed and debts called in like winter's claims. The jars, once steady, now offered little comfort. The spend jar helped for a day. The save jar was thin, and the give jar had been emptied in hope rather than in principle. Under a sky turned iron, he felt the consequences of his divided fidelity. Hunger is a plain voice, and it spoke at door after door, and neighbors who once exchanged cheerful barters now came with bowed heads and urgent requests. The merchant found himself offering what small coin remained, and in truth, he felt ashamed for the give jar's emptiness that no ledger could soothe. The market watched, and whispers that had once judged him now asked for his help. He recalled the days when small kindnesses kept the heart of the village warm, and he took in a family whose roof had fallen in the storm, giving more than the ledger allowed. The save jar suffered further, and the spend jar had already been eaten by comforts chosen in easier times. Yet in the warm, crowded hearth of the grateful family he found a strange relief. This relief was a turning point, for he began to see wealth as a living thing, not a line of ink. Regret sat like a stone in his chest, heavy and cool, and he resolved that if the jars had failed him, it was because he had treated them as separate silos rather than parts of a whole living system. He would rebuild, not by chance, but by a renewed covenant with his rule. Each coin to its jar, unswayed by glamour or fear. He closed the ledger at dusk, deciding that discipline would now be his craft. He began again in smallness, gathering coin by coin, and this time he honored the jars with equal regard and deliberate care, treating each deposit like a promise kept to himself and to others. It is told that steady hands mend even the deepest cracks, and the jars slowly regained weight, not through spectacle, but through patient fidelity. The market noticed a steadiness in him that had nothing to do with gold and everything to do with honor. Seasons turned, and the jars grew with steady, measured drops. He learned to celebrate small fullness rather than sudden abundance, and his life steadied like a well-tended lamp. People came to him not to marvel at riches, but to ask how he kept his calm in lean times, and he would answer simply with the jars as if they were a parable made flesh. The lesson spread softly through the market like a seasoning that made everything richer. When another village suffered, he opened his storehouse and shared from the save jar without thought of approval, from spend to comfort the weary, and from give to meet true need. People told stories that a single man's discipline had become a table large enough for many, and that table fed hope beyond any ledger's calculation. Sharing became not a sacrifice, but a proof that sustained balance breeds communal resilience. He came to teach that wealth is a verb, not merely a noun, and that how one divides it speaks louder than the size of the purse. Greed, he said quietly, makes rules into exceptions. Wisdom makes rules into safeguards that protects not only oneself, but those nearby. The jars remained as a living lesson, a trinity of intentions, future, present, and other that steadied a life. In the end, the merchant's life read like a simple rule kept. He split his earnings between saving, spending, and giving, and through that division he created lasting stability for himself and those around him. This was the conclusion of his parable, and his jars remained on the counter as testament. Financial lessons: save regularly to build resilience, spend thoughtfully to sustain life, and give consistently to strengthen community. Wisdom lies in the balance, and greed is tempered by habit and honor. Carry these lessons with you, and your wealth will serve